that is part of the process of being an astrologer, is starting when you don't feel that you're ready. And some people start after 20 years and they still don't feel ready. And
Yes.
some people start immediately. Should I have been, just like charging for readings when I said that? No, there's like a period where you don't charge for readings and it's an energetic exchange, or, it's like $5 because that's a good energetic exchange because you spend some time doing it. But it's not just anyone should just hang up a shingle and just say, I'm an astrologer now. But in your heart, you can profess. That's what the word profession means etymologically. Profession is I profess or I declare. And so that's really the first step, is to say it for yourself.
This podcast episode is brought to you by The Inner Circle, your place to learn astrology in community with the masters and transform your life in the process.
For those who are new to our channel, I just want to welcome you. My name is Amanda Poole-Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub. Super grateful that you're here. And you have just joined a worldwide astrological conversation that we're having here every single week. And if you're new, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you are notified anytime we post a new video here on the channel. For those of you who have been coming here for weeks or months or years, thank you for being a part of our community, and thank you for joining us for this particular episode. We're doing this episode featuring astrologer Taylor Shuler in hopes that any of you who have either recently fallen in love with astrology, and maybe you feel like you're drinking from the fire hose, or those of you who have come back to astrology after pursuing other interests. Maybe you loved astrology as a child, but then you started a family and you pursued other careers, and now you're finally feeling like you have the space, the time, the energy, and you really want to commit to your astrological studies. And or any of you who have always loved astrology, have been studying astrology for a long time, but you haven't really pursued the formal education yet. You've been listening to podcasts, you've been reading books, you've been doing online research. This episode is designed for any of you in those above categories to really help you find an anchor in the vast sea of so much information. I feel like we learn so much from hearing each other's stories, and storytelling seems like this lost art. And I would love to bring it back to this podcast here. And today we're going to hear Taylor's story and get her insights on things that she's done that have really helped her get to a point where she is now using astrology confidently every single day to understand herself and help the people in her life. Maybe you're playing with the idea of practicing astrology professionally someday, or you just want to do it to understand yourself and others better. Either way, you're going to have a chance to benefit from the lessons that Taylor has learned on her path. All right, so a little bit about Taylor. She is an award-winning astrologer. She won OPA's Most Promising Astrologer Award. She has her master's degree in cross-cultural and sustainable business management from the American University of Paris in France. She has a permaculture design certificate from Peter Cow Permaculture Association. She is the current recording secretary for the Organization for Professional Astrology. She is now a featured astrologer on our new reading platform, Astrologer Connect. And I have referred so many family members, friends. I find Taylor is especially amazing at doing readings for people who are not as familiar with astrology. And so maybe they're having their first reading, they're having their first experience, and she's an incredible shepherd for those people. And I know she works with lots and lots of different types of people, but I love her as my go-to for a person who's interested in astrology, has never had an astrology reading, and just wants to get their toes wet. So Taylor, welcome to the podcast. It's so, so great to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Amanda. It's so great to be back.
All right. So let's start with your story. Describe for us what your life was like. What were you doing before you immersed yourself fully into astrology?
Yeah. So, I came to astrology as a child first. So when I was 6, 7, 10, just my mom would be reading Cosmo magazine or Vogue or whatever the magazine was. We'd be at the nail salon or something like that, or just Sunday after we would go to church on Sundays. So like after church and bagels and stuff on Sunday, reading the newspaper, pick up the sun sign horoscope column. And I remember one trip to a Costco where, for whatever reason, Gary Goldschneider's The Secret Language of Birthday books was there. And I'm bored. I don't care about that at 10 years old. Pick up the book and start leafing through it, and like beg my mom, please buy me this book. And I just found my birthday and was like reading it voraciously, like, who am I? And like, what should I do? And how should I be? And all of that, which fits with my chart, that kind of a question. And it really didn't land for me, a lot of it. I was like, oh, this is interesting, but I couldn't pick up on any of the patterns. Now, Gary Goldschneider's book is not specifically technically astrology, but when I came back to astrology, which was around my Saturn return, it was interesting because one of the ways I came back to it was through his work.
Wow.
He has a website, SLN, or his work somehow has a website, sln.me, about the secret language name. And a friend of mine I was working with told me about the website. So I checked it out. And there was a part on the website where they explained how they did the research. And I believe it was over 40,000 people were studied. And so they studied them by year, by week, by day of birth. And if you're thinking about this, it's like, okay, that sounds kind of like astrology. Like, what do these people all have in common? So he did his own little thing, but then that sort of just got me back into the area, like into the groove, into the feeling of astrology. So I didn't come straight back into it like sun signs and things like that. But I think that's what's great about astrology. However you come to it is totally okay. And I think your question was what was my life like before I came back to astrology? So before my Saturn return, it was rough. I've got one of those Saturn return stories. It's not so fun. Work wasn't working out well. School wasn't working. I have degrees, but school wasn't working out well. Relationship wasn't working out well. Money wasn't working out well. Nothing was working out well. For friends weren't working out well. Nothing. And I had to start my life over again. So I had a 15-year almost relationship that ended. And that was my Saturn return. I had to just, find a new job, find my identity, make new friends, move to a new place, have a new house, and just really build from the ground up. And that's the space that I was in when I came back to astrology right before my Saturn return. And then learning, oh, this is your Saturn return. This is something that is, I don't want to say having a difficult experience is typical for everyone, but it's not uncommon to say it in a delicate way. Some people get married. Some people get promotions at work. Some people finally get their degree, a PhD or, some sort of doctorate. They have a big, wonderful celebration moment. They have their first child. For other people, it's sort of a redirection. And for me, it was that redirection.
Mm. So Taylor, would you say that you went into the career, the friends, the relationship, all those things that weren't working out well, in your words, would you say that those things always felt a little off and you were doing them because you felt like you should? Or did you think at the time that was really your path?
Oh, I absolutely thought all of that was my path. I mean, I thought I should be in that relationship. I fought hard for it. I thought, this is the career path I should be on. Why isn't it working out for me? This is where I'm supposed to be living. This is what is supposed to be going on for me. I should be doing this. I was going to go on to get more graduate degrees, and it should keep working out for me. And I kept looking at the doors that were closed instead of the doors that were wide open for me.
Wow.
And that's something that I find a lot with my clients, or just people that I encounter in my everyday life are people with that same problem. And that's what we find as astrologers or in any business that you're in, really. You end up helping people solve problems that you've addressed in your own life.
So what were these doors that were open to you that you couldn't see at the time?
Oh my gosh. Well, now I know astrology is definitely one of them. The 9 to 5 type of thing for me was a door that was open, but it was in a different way. I was looking at it as this should fulfill me. my 9 to 5 job should be everything. I should be happy there. I should get all of my needs met there. I should have friends there. I should, do all of that. And when I reframed it for myself, that this is something that can actually support the rest of my life, that was really helpful for me. And I also realized maybe the relationship ended so that I could be in a better one. And maybe I was learning lessons in a difficult relationship because one day there would be people in a similar position who needed my empathy. Maybe I was in this position of feeling bad, feeling really, honestly, just depressed, a lot of like anxiety, feeling really depressed and sad and lost and confused, because maybe one day there would be people who feel that way, who need some understanding and need someone who has already been through it, who's sort of like has the torch in the dark tunnel, to like help you out of the dark tunnel, sort of a thing.
Yes. Okay, so life, you're in your Saturn return. Everything that you've worked really hard to build is all crumbling to the ground.
Yeah.
You get reintroduced to Gary Goldschneider? Is that?
Yeah, and Juiced Elfers. Yeah, there was.
Okay, is that like numerology or something? What they were doing?
No, I think it's astrology adjacent. So Gary Goldschneider has written astrology books.
Oh, okay.
And so this is like every day. So he goes by the day, not necessarily by like the degree of your sun or anything like that.
Right. Okay. So you find this book, then what happens?
I found more. Then I found Chani Nicholas. And I listened to Chani Nicholas for a couple of years. I want to say from 2016 or 2017, I still listen to her like every week, but that was really the only astrology that I was aware of. I didn't, I knew Susan Miller. My mom would read Susan Miller and send me the Susan Miller stuff every now and then. And, I knew the sun sign horoscope. So I wasn't really interested in it though, because I still was having trouble picking up the patterns. Like I didn't understand why they were saying this about Capricorn, and I wasn't relating to the Capricorn sun sign horoscope at all. And I didn't understand why. And then I felt this sort of resistance. And I'm like, wait, I'm drawn to the astrology, but I'm not connecting with it. And that makes me upset. It makes me feel really frustrated. Yeah.
Wait, okay. So this is fascinating because as a Capricorn also, I never resonated either. Well, I would resonate with aspects of it, but a lot of it, I was like, oh man, is that really me? Like, I don't think of myself this way at all. So when you say you weren't recognizing the pattern, what do you mean? Like I know you couldn't find yourself in it, but what about the quote unquote pattern weren't you seeing?
So now I can recognize that as two things that I wasn't recognizing. Three actually. One is that I shouldn't have been reading the Capricorn sun sign horoscope, even though I am a Capricorn sun, because I'm a Pisces rising. And if I was born at night, I might even resonate more with my moon sign, which is a Scorpio moon. And maybe the Scorpio moon sign would resonate more with me. So when I started to figure out that there was a sun and a moon and a rising or an ascendant, I was like, okay, this opens things up for me. I also didn't realize there were other planets that we needed to take into account, right?
Yes.
So that's the first thing. I was reading the wrong horoscope. The second one is that I wasn't picking up on the patterns of the archetype. Why were they saying this about a Capricorn and this about a Leo? I couldn't understand. I mean, I knew a little bit stereotypically about Capricorns work hard and achieve and are good at work. I couldn't really pick up more than that. I wasn't getting it. I don't know how to explain it. I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that I wasn't recognizing was how they were deciding what to say every day. What was it based on?
But Taylor, what's amazing to me is that you were experiencing all this resistance, but you stuck with it. Like most people who are like, whatever, I don't resonate with the horoscopes, they just don't bother. But so what compelled you to keep exploring?
That's a really good question. I don't know how to explain it. I just kept coming back to it. I kept being interested in it. I know now, when I was at that point in my life, my mother started telling me stories about her life when she was my age, before I was born. My mom had me at 37, almost 38. And so she's now telling me stories about when she was in her 20s or when she was in her early 30s, which I didn't know growing up. And some of these stories were about how she was really into the I Ching and into astrology and into tarot and into getting psychic readings and things like that. And so these are all very different from astrology, but they're all divinatory arts or practices. And just having some attachment to energetic channels like that, tuning into nature, tuning into things that you have to channel in one way or another. And so astrology isn't technically channeling, but what we're doing is interpreting the language that the planets are trying to speak to us in. Right. And so we do that based on, there's books and there's definitions. And then there is just sort of like a gut sense. And there's my own experience of living with and talking with and working with the planets on a daily basis that you end up being able to share with other people.
All right. So I want to bring us back. So we have Annie Nicholas. We have, who else were you? Susan Miller. So you're starting to immerse yourself a little bit. You're realizing, oh, wait, I'm more than just a sun sign. I have a moon and I have a rising. Maybe I should check those things out. Mm-hmm. Then what happened? Like, we're still really far away from where you were, life totally falling apart, getting interested in astrology to where you are today. So walk us into the next phase.
Yeah. So like I said, I was feeling some resistance. I would not listen sometimes, or I would listen and I read and just feel like this doesn't match me at all. And so I would take time away. And I find that pattern of taking time away is something called titration. Now I understand that from somatic experiencing. And so titration is really important when it comes to all parts of life, but also when studying astrology. So I was titrating, not knowing that that's what I was doing. And I stepped away and I came back and I said, this is something that really lights my fire. My day job is making me not only not light my fire, like it was just like wet blanket over the fire, totally making me upset and miserable. And, that's not living. And so I would share with a couple people, I shared it with my manager at the time. I shared it with my friends. I shared it with my family. This is something that really lights me up. And people would reflect back to me, Taylor, look at your face. You're just lighting up talking about this. And now you're saying things to me that I didn't know and I didn't understand. You're teaching me these things. And then my friends and family and managers would say, oh, I have a friend who's really into astrology. And they told me that you should check this out. And so my friend Karen told me that she had a friend who listened to Ann Ortley. And so I Googled Ann Ortley's podcast. And at the time, I didn't even have the idea to look on on Apple Podcasts or Spotify podcasts to say, like, if I type in astrology, I might find something. It just didn't occur to me.
Yeah.
Or YouTube or anything like that. And I found Ann Ortley, and a couple episodes in, she said, I just met this wonderful person, Amanda, and she does the Astrology Hub, and I'm joining her on the Astrology Hub, and you should come check out me on the Astrology Hub. And so then I found the Astrology Hub. I listened to you and Stormy Grace and doing your horoscopes and forecasts. And then that opened up a whole world to me. And then I learned about Chris Brennan and the Astrology podcast, because then I actually typed in astrology into my podcast and into YouTube and started finding things. And just the astrologers that you featured on Astrology Hub, each one, I would then Google them and listen to them and learn from them and ask questions and engage in the inner circle. And that really opened things up for me. So I remember being in the inner circle and submitting my chart for a locational astrology reading with Gemini Brett. And then I thought, wow, I could get an astrology reading. That's a thing. And I find that a lot of people don't even know that you can get an astrology reading. It's not just about reading a horoscope. People don't know, because it's not like everyone grows up knowing someone who goes to get an astrology reading.
Wild. So, yeah. So now you're in the inner circle, you're studying and you're like immersed in it with us. And then you go, wait, I could probably get a reading?
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh my, I'm so amazed by this, is because my entree into astrology was the reading, so to hear that, like, you were already immersed, you were already loving it. You were already like talking to your boss and people at your work, and you joined the inner circle, and you didn't even know that there was a thing where someone would like look at your chart and give you personal feedback and guidance.
I mean, like maybe a couple months before I joined the community, just on like Channy's website, I saw that she did readings, but she was closed. And then I just never thought about it again. So like, it didn't occur to me that that was like the thing to do. My experience with astrology was either reading a horoscope or listening to a podcast that was about teaching or learning, or a podcast horoscope.
Well, it's true because there's when I think about what we do, it's like you can either come to Astrology Hub to get guidance in navigating the astrological tides, which is a lot of the time sort of a collective experience that we're having, right? There's the weekly weather, there's the yearly weather, there's the daily weather, and it's something that of course, our individual chart is dictating very much how much we're experiencing of that weather, or the way that we're experiencing that weather. But then there is also that step of getting that real personal reading, that real personal touch. Okay.
Yeah.
So what made you join the inner circle? Because that's also like kind of a big step for some people to be like, I want to join a community of people. I want to be learning. I want to be a student on some level. I'm sorry, Taylor, real quick. At this point, did you have any idea that someday you'd become a professional astrologer?
I think it was pretty much simultaneously when I joined the inner circle that I was like, I'm going to be an astrologer. Like, I declare myself an astrologer now. So which is it just matches with my chart that I have Jupiter and Aries, and it's like, start before you're ready. Like, I didn't know anything. And I was like, I've done enough listening to Channy, and I'm going to be an astrologer now. And it's like, part of that is because that is part of the process of being an astrologer, is starting when you don't feel that you're ready. And some people start after 20 years and they still don't feel ready. And some people start immediately. Should I have been, just like charging for readings when I said that? No, there's like a period where you don't charge for readings and it's an energetic exchange, or, it's like $5 because that's a good energetic exchange because you spend some time doing it. But it's not just anyone should just hang up a shingle and just say, I'm an astrologer now. But in your heart, you can profess. That's what the word profession means etymologically. Profession is I profess or I declare. And so that's really the first step, is to say it for yourself.
Ooh, wow. I have never thought of that before or heard that before. That is brilliant. I profess, I declare. Love it. Okay. So you join the inner circle. You get selected because we have, just for those of you who don't know, we have a live Q&A and chart reading every single month. So whichever astrologer is our teacher for that month, they teach a mastery class. They teach a full and a new moon forecast with like slides, and it's very instructional. And then we have a live Q&A and chart reading. And so all the members of the inner circle are eligible to put their name in the hat for a chart reading that's demonstrating a particular technique. So we had Gemini Brett in the inner circle. He was teaching about astrolocality, which, for those of you who don't know, is the astrology that is basically looking at the world, the geography of the world, and then helping you find like your power places on the planet. Or, it's amazing. You can actually get specific. It was like, where would my career be most successful? Where would I find love? Where's the best place for family? Where's the best place for community and friends? It's astounding. So you get selected for the astrolocality reading with Brett. Yeah. And then what happens?
It was a great experience. It was like, wow, I can really connect this and I feel it. And it feels so amazing to be seen and to be understood in this way by someone who, through a computer and by only knowing my birth data, can somehow tell me so much about myself. And so I started getting readings. And you asked before about some of the benefits of joining the inner circle. And so I found that there were so many benefits. I was trying to do everything. I was listening to, now at this point, every podcast I could find, every YouTube channel that showed up for me, any book I could possibly get my hands on. I went on to websites like FreeCycle and trashnothing.org to ask people in my neighborhood, do you have astrology books that you want to give away for free? Because I couldn't afford to buy all of the books and to spend all of the money on things. And I found that the inner circle, for the value that you get, there was just an immense amount of information. There were people who were interested, which made me feel good because I was alone in my community as far as I knew, in terms of my interest in astrology. And so being around other people who are interested made me feel less alone, made me feel better about myself, increased my excitement about astrology, kept me going every day. And just being around the language really helped me as well. And so just some of the cycles that you said with the new moon and the full moon ceremonies, I didn't really know about all. I mean, I did know from listening to Channing that she'd do a new moon and a full moon, and so I did that. But like seeing people come together in community to do this, and not just doing it by myself, and then tying these outer planet or these mundane transits to my own life, just made a huge impact. So I think that the next thing after getting that reading from Gemini Brett, then I was like, oh wait, I can get a reading with him. So I got a private reading with him later that summer, and I found some other astrologers. I listened to them on podcasts like this one and others. And, when I wanted to have a birthday gift or celebrate myself, I would save my money and I bought a reading. And that was huge in my own education and development as an astrologer, to take away some of the stigma of how do you give a reading? Because then I started giving readings. So I bought books on like how to give a reading. I bought the Shamanic Astrology Handbook. That was one of the first books that I bought because it really tells you like how to give a reading according to shamanic astrology. And I started doing it. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. And when you were, I'm guessing from what you said that you, at some point when you're listening to all these podcasts and you're just sort of like all over the place, just trying to gather as much information as you can, which it's amazing to me that astrology is one of those things where it's almost like everybody goes through that phase of like that voracious, like, and maybe that phase never ends. Like for a lot of us, it's just like,
I was going to say,
like it's the thing. But there's so many paths to follow. There's also a lot of information out there that's incorrect and like not high quality. I mean, I literally had a business mentor in my life at one point who was an Aries. And so when he found out what I did, he was like, he knew nothing about astrology. And he's like, oh, well, I want to find out about me. Like, I want to find it. So he Googles Aries. And he gets this article that comes up and it's like, Aries is the most narcissistic, selfish, horrible. Like literally, he tells me what it says. And I'm like, oh, that hurts me. Like, that is so painful that this is your first like experience with astrology. Yeah. And like, if you didn't have me to bounce this off, you might think this is true. You might think that this is what astrology is saying about you, which is just horrible, right? It was just bad information. So first of all, how did you like navigate the sea of what's good astrology versus what's like kind of flimsy astrology versus also what's, harmful astrology?
That is such a good question. And I have to tell you, it is a daily struggle. Daily. I still, to this day, as a professional astrologer, struggle with this because I still love listening to horoscopes. I still love learning. I don't stop. I listen to podcasts when I'm cleaning my house or doing my dishes or cooking or driving or whatever. I mean, I'm constantly taking it in. There are times when I titrate and I step away. But just a couple weeks ago, I heard something. I'm going through some Saturn transits right now, right? So not my Saturn return, but I'm having some Saturn transits that don't look good if you're going to Google it. And
yes. Oh my gosh. Trust me. I know I have Pluto on my Sun and Venus for like the next 3 years. And so don't Google that. Like, yeah. Scary. Yeah.
And so since I'm a Capricorn with a birthday a couple days before you, I've just gone through my Pluto Sun. And I got to tell you, it was the biggest glow up you could ever go through.
The biggest what up?
The biggest glow up. A glow up.
I like that term. Glow up. I've never heard this. Okay.
If you ride the wave, if you use it and it's happening.
Yes.
But I am one of those people, when I'm sick, I WebMD. I Google and I find those things, and it's the same. And so putting it into context and reframing it and saying, just because WebMD says you have XYZ that is incurable does not mean that that's true. It could be many other things, and you need to be a professional to determine what that would look like. One, because you have a different context, and two, because you have a lot of experience of people coming with that problem, and it's going on, or not problem, but having that transit or that activation. That natal excitation is another way we could say it.
Mm.
And they can tell you many ways that it can happen for you. And so for me, my Saturn transit has been about me accepting responsibility and me stepping into maturity and me being the bigger person and me being the example, when really I wanted someone else to take the lead and I wanted someone else to do the thing first. And Saturn, to being responsible and being mature, sometimes is about vulnerability too.
Yes.
And so sometimes being vulnerability brings in that strength of a Saturn transit. And so when I've gotten readings, even recently, from astrologers I love and know and respect and have learned from, I take it with salt, because they can see the negative. And there is some benefit in saying, okay, I'm going to be practical. I'm going to be real with you. This can happen because if you recognize the signs, the symptoms, that can happen with this, then you have the ability to turn it into the positive. So you need to know both and the in between as well as the inverse, because astrology can happen in the inverse pole, for example. So if you're having something, the moon's moving through Cancer, well, according, that's opposite, right? So you need to know where that's happening, especially if you're talking about the nodes and eclipses, because you're going to have the nodes in both signs. And so if you have an eclipse in Cancer and the nodes are in Cancer and Capricorn, it can actually reverse. And so having a professional astrologer, having other people, having friends who've had these experiences is really helpful in mitigating some of that negative self-talk, or just accepting without any critical thought or analysis, just accepting that negative things are going to happen. And I think that's an important part of why astrology has been out of the picture and why it's having a resurgence now. It's important to recognize that some of the negativity of astrology is built in, because centuries ago, the kings and queens had an astrologer. Regular folks didn't have an astrologer until maybe William Lilly, who practiced horary astrology. And he did see regular people, but it wasn't for a horoscope. It was for a really pressing, burning question. And then astrology became something that was stigmatized. And so how do you keep astrology, which is a powerful tool, out of people's hands? You stigmatize it. You infiltrate with negativity, because who wants to be scared? Who wants to be afraid? Who wants to believe that? No one. So the resurgence is all about reclaiming it, reclaiming its power, and reclaiming some of the positive and empowering aspects and things that we can learn from astrology.
Beautiful. Amazing. Okay. So you're having readings, you're in the inner circle, you're like really immersed. What are you doing? What's your day job right now? Are you still doing the job that you don't like?
Yeah, I was in human resources at this time. And, I don't want to say like I hated everything about the job, because I had great people and things like that. So anyone who's listening from there, love you guys. But, I'm meant to be an astrologer. I wasn't meant to be an HR person. So, and I think a lot of us find ourselves in that place where like we do the thing. And actually, one of the things is that sometimes you do things in order to help you be better at that thing that you end up doing. Like, totally. Being a human resources director helps me to be a better career astrologer.
Oh my gosh. It is one of the reasons why I send people, especially those who are kind of more in maybe the business world right now, or they're in more like a little bit more like mainstream professions, why I feel so comfortable sending them to you for readings, because you have been there and you have that like that groundedness, that especially someone new to astrology who like probably already has it in some category as like very ungrounded woo-woo craziness, you're such a great bridge because you are super grounded, very practical. You have a business background, and you speak the language, and you speak the language really well. So I'm like, oh, I know that they're not going to be scared away by Taylor. This is a great place. Okay. All right. So you're getting the readings, but you have your day job. When did you start to actually and I'm assuming you're giving readings right now this whole time, but just friends and family kind of style. Yes.
Yeah. So I started friends and family. Actually, I started not with friends and family. I started by the same way that I went on Free Cycle and the trashnothing.org websites. I just went on there because I was like, I don't know how to reach out to people. I don't know how to contact people. I'll tell people if they want a reading, but people who know you, sometimes they want it from you and sometimes they don't. They get a little skittish, like, you know me, and then you're going to know things about me that I don't want you to know.
Right.
So I just put a post on there, free reading. And I had complete strangers who I didn't know say, yes, please. That sounds great. And so that's how I started giving readings. And then I started going to conferences and I made friends at conferences and we would read each other's charts. And so we started Facebook Messenger threads and Facebook groups where we would talk and we would read each other's charts. And it just sort of spread and snowballed from there where I would meet more people and offer it as something that I do. And then I started charging pretty quickly because I realized that there's just something about offering something for free that only so many people want or appreciate.
Yes.
And so then I started charging for readings and got more clients and more readings and joined the Organization for Professional Astrology, where I met more aspiring astrologers and emerging astrologers, and we would read each other's charts in peer group. And it has just become a daily part of my life where I'm looking at many charts every day, whether it's, my own or friends or family or clients or transits. It's just happening.
Wow. So for how long was that period of time? Like from the Saturn return till this period where you're now you're practicing. And then at what point were you able to actually quit your day job and make this your full-time profession?
Yeah. So all very good questions. So I would say it was about 3 years since that pre-Saturn return period to when I started reading charts because I was listening to the astrology, but wasn't really getting it. And then at 3 years, I was like, I declare myself an astrologer. And that was about 3 years ago when I started reading charts and I'm like, hey, I'm here. I'm reading charts. I'm an astrologer.
So that's 6 years, about the total is about 6 years.
Six, maybe 7 years, 6 or 7 years. Yeah.
Well, I think that's hopeful for people.
It is.
It's often you look at especially on our channel, for example, we have people like Rick Levine or Georgia Stathis or Christopher Renstrom, some of these just super established, incredible, elder wisdoms. They're holding so much in their decades of research and study, plus practice, plus teaching, all of it. Yes. And so I think sometimes it's intimidating for people. It's I can speak for myself. I look at them, I'm like, I will never declare myself an astrologer because that's my bar. You know what I'm saying? So that it seems really hard. But also I think that it's helpful to know that there are people that get into it, immerse themselves completely, join the right groups, surround themselves in the conversation, practice, put themselves out there so that they're practicing and practicing and practicing. And then they eventually, in not that long of a period of time, can be actually professionally practicing. And now I know that you've just recently gotten certified as a professional astrologer. You got that award from OPA for the most promising astrologer. I mean, how cool is that? You have totally accelerated.
I'm very grateful and very humbled by it all. I think that connecting with people in the astrological community is the greatest gift of my life. Everyone is so incredibly kind and generous and supportive. And without all of the people who've been my mentors and my friends, none of that would have happened. Bear River encouraged me to apply for the award. And so if it wasn't for Bear, I wouldn't have gotten the award. Bear is a mentor and a friend of mine. And so, it's wild how amazingly big-hearted I think every single astrologer I have encountered is and has been to me. So, and to anyone I know. I will say though that, I can sit here and say this is my experience that, I've been practicing for 3 years and I'm have been interested in astrology for 6 or 7 years, and here I am. I haven't quit my day job, and I think that's really important to say because it takes a ton of hard work. So someone who's been a teacher of mine, Wade Caves, I was in a mentorship program with him, and I was like, well, how can I be an astrologer? And he said, you work 80 to 120 hours a week. And I said, no, that's not for me. I already work that much at my day job. There's no way. And I was really upset to hear that. Sorry, Wade. I was really upset when you said that. It's true. It's to start your own business, to learn something is another full-time job. I happen to have things in my chart that speak to the fact that I am a voracious learner and I can be a quick learner when I want to about something. And I also have some signatures in my chart that lend me to being an astrologer. So I have a lot of things going for me. And I also have something in my chart that says, like, my Jupiter in Aries is like, start before you're ready. And that's just me. And everyone's chart is very different. And so I not only had support, but I also had like the stars sort of like egging me on, and then something from my mom in my DNA, like, hey, you should do this sort of stuff. And I just eat, sleep, breathe astrology.
You know what? So we're doing these compilation videos where we're asking the same question to many different astrologers, and then we're going to put them all together so you all can hear a lot of astrologers' response to the same kind of question. And Georgia Stathis, actually, she said she mirrored exactly what you just said. She said that it is something that you'll want to, though. Like, if you're called to this as your profession, you will want to, but it requires all of you. It requires, but I actually love that you still have your day job, because eventually you won't. I'm confident of that. But
don't tell them that yet.
I don't, well,
okay.
Oh, shoot. No. You'll be there forever.
Yeah.
No, no, eventually you won't. And in the meantime, you're able to take care of your needs, to continue to have one foot in that world, though. I still think there's value in that you have one foot in that world, one foot in this astrological world. It does really make you an incredible bridge for people. So
yeah.
There's, like you said, there is gifts and value in the experiences that we have throughout our lives, even when they're hard or they don't feel totally aligned or they end up blowing up at some point. There's still gifts for the next thing that we're going to do, right?
Yeah. And honestly, when it clicked for me that I need to put all of this work into the astrology, and that the day job is what supports me to be able to go to conferences and buy books and memberships and have a website and all of the things that I want to build my life, that made me a happier person. It made me more fulfilled. It made me show up at my day job better at what I do, because I wasn't worried about the work that I was doing at my job making me happy. I actually started seeing how my job could work for me instead of me working for my job, saying, what are the skills I'm learning here every day, doing through my research, through the things that I'm providing for my employer, that I can then use in my business. And I started doing that. If I have to make a PowerPoint, well, that's great. We make PowerPoints for astrology, don't we, when we do lectures? And so I would tips and tricks, and then the graphic design skills of that really helped me with my website, and knowing some tips in Excel helped me to track my business better. So learning how to make your life work for you and support your goals is really important.
And you tuned into the frequency of gratitude
Yes.
which then it adds momentum to what you're doing because you're grateful for, instead of like resisting and being resentful about everything you're doing all day. It's like, actually, this is helping me. This is enabling me. I will give this everything I have when I'm there. I will take what I learn. I will apply it over here. It reminds me of, I'm constantly quoting this book, The Chop Wood, Carry Water. But one of the first stories in this book is about, oh, this might be too long. Let me see if I can do it short. This guy who's an architect his whole life. And so he's building these beautiful houses for people. And he is really, really good at what he does. And he gets to the point where he wants to retire. And he goes to his boss and he's like, I need to retire from this work. I'm done. And the boss says, I need you to do one more house. I need you to do one more house. And he's like, fine, I'll do one more house. But he doesn't want to, so he kind of skimps on the materials. He doesn't like do the same thing he's been doing his whole career. He builds it, but his heart's not in it. And, so anyways, at the end, he goes to his boss and he goes, okay, I'm done with that final project. I need to be done. And the boss hands him the keys he hands him a box. And in the box are a set of keys. And that final house he was building was for him. It was a gift from his boss for him. It was the house that he like could live in. And so then he's going, oh my God, but I skimped. I didn't, but it's the point is we are always building our house, like whether or not you're using it for what you think you want to do or not, you're always building your home. Like, so that story like completely sticks with me all the time when I think about, doing different things. And what you just described, that pivot you made was you going, oh, wow, like any job I have right now, I'm building my future.
Yeah.
So I'll make the most of it.
That story is so good. And it just goes back also to what I said before about the doors that are opened and closed and seeing what you have as a gift, seeing these relationships, seeing the support, seeing the resources, the access, all of the things, and leaning into gratitude only makes things multiply exponentially.
Okay. If people are out there going, I don't know, maybe someday I could be an astrologer, or I don't know, at least I know I want to use it to like help my children or my friends or my spouse or myself. What advice would you give them? Or what insight or guidance would you give them in this moment?
I would say think about a couple years from now, what you want your life to look like. And take a few deep cleansing breaths, breathe in some white light, and think about you living your best life in a couple of years and really journal it out. Just like write it out. What are you smelling? What are you seeing? Who are you with? Where are you? What is the weather? What does the sky look like? Is it nighttime? Is it daytime? How do you spend your day? Tell me, just write it out. And then think about, where does astrology fit into that? Right? What are the things that you really enjoy doing? Like when I did this exercise, a friend did this for me. I had a trampoline in my backyard, like I was jumping on a trampoline. So like what are the things that you're doing? And then how are you using astrology? What does that look like? And that will give you a lot of insight into what your passions are, what you're good at, what you really care about, and also maybe what you think the world needs from you. Those are some things that I'm really passionate about sharing with people, certainly in the readings that I give to people. And I think that's one way that you can hone in on what kind of astrologer you want to be and the reason for you studying astrology. And that can help you then figure out what your path is, right? Do you want people who are your friends so that you can be around the language? When I found astrology friends, I felt so seen because I could speak my language freely. If you're someone who speaks more than one language, you know what it feels like when you can go back and speak your first language with someone, right? It just feels so comfortable. So is that something that you want? You want friends? If that's the case, go to conferences, go to lectures, join the inner circle, and have that be part of your daily practice and really make it a priority. If you want to give readings, have you gotten some? If you want to be a professional, think about certification. There's a number of organizations. The Organization for Professional Astrology that I just got a certification through is about the professionalism aspect of astrology. If you want to go through ESAR or NCGR or other organizations, AFA, they're going to help you focus on really like the essentials of the mechanics of astrology and the mathematics and all of the things. Do you want to like hand calculate charts and things like that? Do you really need a certification to get started? No, you don't need a certification to get started. It's sort of like something you do along the way. Listen to lots of different astrology, buy lots of books, listen to audiobooks, get PDFs, all of the things in whatever way you learn about your Mercury. Learn about your own chart first and really figure out what are the gifts and talents that you can give to the world by leveraging astrology. Just like, I've got this HR background and that's something that I can give to people. There's a lot of organizations out there, and I know that Astrology Hub, you all did the top 50 tips for aspiring astrologers. So check that out because I put a bunch of tips in there, a bunch of organizations and things that you can do. And the other astrologers on the Astrologer Connect platform, they also put some really wonderful tips that I learned from too. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I should do that.
Nice. Amazing. You are just a well of information and experience and wisdom and enthusiasm. Thank you, Taylor. For those of you who are like, oh my God, I need to have a reading with Taylor, you can do that now on the Astrologer Connect platform at astrologyhub.com/astrologer connect. You can book a reading with Taylor for the future, or you can just go on to astrologyhub.com/astrologer connect and see if she has her little green light on. If she has her little green light on, you can connect with her in the moment, like right away, and just ask your questions. What are your questions? What are you exploring? What's alive for you? Where are you like, God, I feel like I want to go here, but I'm not sure. Maybe this is my path. I'm not totally clear on this. Astrology gives so much clarity on things like that. And normally it's confirming what you already know, but you need the confidence to really commit to whatever that path is. And that's what a great reading will do. It'll give you that, like, you know what? This is what I was feeling. Having the perfect stranger look at my chart and confirm that it's there. All right, I have permission. I'm going to go for that 100%. So, and Taylor, I'm like you. I get multiple readings every year. I always get a reading on my birthday. That is like one of my favorite rituals every single year. It is my favorite thing to gift. And that's what we made it easy for you to gift readings to people in your life on Astrologer Connect. So any of you who are like, God, I'd love to like get one for my friend or my boss or my coworker or whatever. It's super easy to gift readings. But Taylor, I am just super grateful. I love that we were a part of your path. I am honored to have been a part of your path. And now we get to be partners and helping other people get the guidance they need wherever they're at in their life. So thank you for coming in and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me again. And thank you for all that you have done for so many people and helping people to see that they can see themselves in all of us. Like, you can do this. So thank you.
Yes. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, for joining us for this episode, for being a part of our community. Thank you for your curiosity about astrology. Thank you for your love of astrology. Thank you for your voracious appetite to learn more and more. It is a very fruitful endeavor. And like Taylor said, when you start meeting astrologers in real life, or you make your astrologer friends, you really connect with the astrology community, you'll be amazed at how beautiful the people are. And there's a quote, and Richard Tarnas said it, and I totally cannot say it right, but it was something like, you can tell so much about a profession or about a certain path by the fruits of the people who practice it, by the character of the people who practice it, by who they are. And that has been one of the most affirming things for me ever, is to meet astrologers at conferences or, just in our world here at Astrology Hub and just be like, wow, like these people are alive. They're passionate. They care. They're engaged with their life. And I can't say that about that many professions that at least I've been exposed to. So it's a really beautiful thing. Yeah. Yep. All right. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you are interested in joining us in the inner circle at some point, we are opening up in March. You can get on the waitlist right now at astrologyhub.com/IC23. That's IC as in inner circle 23. You'll be the first to know when we open up our enrollment, and we'd love to have you so we can speak the language with each other all the time. And you can learn from some of the best astrologers in the world every single month. All right, everybody, take care, and we will see you soon.
Did you know there's a whole universe that you can unlock with so-called minor aspects? Most astrologers don't even use them, but Master Astrologer Rick Levine calls them harmonic aspects, saying they're key to revealing the deeper, metaphysical dimension of a birth chart, including the creative, mystical, and unseen parts of ourselves and others. And if you want a taste of how powerful they can be, just listen to what he has to say about some of the subtiles in play during his February and March forecast.
There's one other thing that happens in February. By the 12th, Venus makes a septile. That's 1/7 of a circle to Pluto. Venus makes a septile to Uranus. Boom, boom. What are septiles? They're otherworldly. They're supernatural. Dane Rudger said they were fated. Things come out and things come through that were somehow in other realms. And like Uranus, it's like lightning striking. And I think the combination of Mercury going into Uranus's modern sign of Aquarius and all these septiles will awaken us to the idea that we don't see everything that we think we do. Of course, it's not lost on me that this is the first week of Foundations Level 3 course. And it's just such an overwhelming septile message that we get from the universe. I really think that there's going to be a bit of a wake up in mid-February.
If you're ready to uncover these powerful unseen aspects in your chart, join us for Astrology Foundations Level 3 with Master Astrologer Rick Levine at astrologyhub.com/foundations3.